Hello everybody and welcome to your weekly energy and astrology report for the week of June 27th through, what is it, the 3rd of July. Wow. Astrologically, we have encountered some of the most intense and challenging aspects in the last few days in particular. There's been a creeping sensation to all of this, and you may have felt as though you were holding it all together in the status quo for some time, and then something has hit you over the head and made you reawaken to finding a more defined sense of purpose in this fucked up existence. And I'm gonna get some things off my chest to start before I actually talk about the astrology and the cards of this week. Last week I tend to avoid paying attention to my viewership because for whatever reason I just don't have the tools or the compatibility with the greater collective to attract an audience that is worthy of my message. And I do say that because I refuse to denigrate my own abilities, because I know that I am right and I know that what I do is extraordinary. Venus has gone direct, but it is still stationary, so it's going to be, about another week to 10 days where it stays at pretty much the same degree. And so while there is an alleviation on some level from the heaviness of that retrograde, Neptune has also, pretty much at the same time as Venus went direct, stationary direct, Neptune went retrograde. And Neptune is in Pisces and has been for some time and will continue to be for some time to come. And that is an extraordinarily trying dynamic, particularly personally, because I actually have in my birth chart Neptune stationary direct in my 7th house of partnership, which for anybody that knows me would explain why I stay the fuck away from relationships and intimacy. You'd have to know what that means in order to understand why, but let's just say it's a lot harder for me to to manage the dynamics of interpersonal connection, because, well, it doesn't matter because that's my personal life. I wish my energy were a little bit more, a little kinder right now, but it simply isn't, because, well, we're about to feel the massive bursting zit of Mars going into Aries. And these last days, well, literally the last 2 days of it being in Pisces, it's kind of like a pressure cooker. So personally, I feel like killing most of the people I encounter, and I imagine killing the ones I don't encounter, and obviously it's metaphorical, so please don't get your fucking panties in a bunch. But there's been an enormous grieving process for me in these final degrees of Mars in Pisces, and it has felt like shit. But it's also deeply clearing of like the karmic soul contracts and loyalty contracts that I have kept alive to spite myself and to keep myself small. And Mars in Aries is about to burst the lid off of that. So if you've been a fucking bitch to me, or you have crossed me, or you don't have my best interests at heart, or you don't return the investment that I have in your life, again, I speak broadly because I'm not speaking to you in particular as the viewer, you better fucking watch out, because I am not taking it anymore. And that's gonna be interesting. However, what we also really need to understand in these trying astrological aspects is that it's our job to rise above and to be in joy, and to not allow ourselves to be dragged down into the banalities and mechanisms of the stupid masses who are infighting and fighting cycles that have already happened over and over again. You know, it's like, just fucking decide. No more racism. That's all you need to do. You don't need to take to the fucking streets. You don't need the government. I mean, everybody needs to come together and have the same realization. But none of the actions that anybody is taking will have any consequence. It's all egoic. It's all narcissistic expression of bullshit. These are inner conflicts, inner frustrations that we are projecting into broad social avenues. And it's dumb as fuck. So, you know, if I get 11 viewers next week instead of the 12 I got this last week, I mean, how my viewership keeps going down is beyond me, but maybe it's just because these people don't like to hear the truth, or they don't like to be spoken to in the way that I'm currently speaking. But it's just, I'm a reflection of the times and the energy. So I guess it would make sense that people would want to bury their heads in the sand rather than actually explore these feelings and understand that you have to feel them in order to transcend. But as we face a very uncertain future, you know, with these rising numbers of cases of the mystery disease that nobody seems to have any information about, it just gets worse and worse, how like absurd the differing opinions and information are. But as it seems to be worsening once again, and we can expect our societies to be shut down again, and for the economic turmoil to be exacerbated by tenfold, we're reminded of the power of Neptune, which is the planet of illusions and dreams. But illusory thinking and dreaming doesn't help reality if there's no tangibility to the drive to push forth. If it's an escape, or if it's to confuse and destroy and sow the seeds of division and anti-oneness, then the months and years ahead are going to be very, very painful and difficult for people living in that headspace. Anyway, that's all I have to say on all of that. And I'm gonna get directly onto our Sacred Destiny Oracle cards. We got 2 this week. The first, perhaps the antithesis of everything that I just expressed, but that may be exactly the flow that we require. Love. What does love tell us? Represented by the wild rose. Roses are a universal symbol of love. The rose was associated with Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. It was also thought to represent truth. In Roman times, a rose was hung in meeting places with the understanding that only truth could be spoken under the rose. In many Native American tribes, wild roses are a powerful symbol of life. Some tribes believed that wild roses were protection, so they kept them in their homes. The wild rose, as opposed to the domesticated rose, represents a love that is wild and free and without bounds. It blossoms all summer and is beloved by bees and butterflies. The sacred landscape wants you to know that love is all around you. Love is coming into your life. You are already more cherished than you can possibly know. Indeed, you are a sacred vessel for love to flow through you when you stand in the center of it all. All is well, no matter what is happening around you. You know that you are loved and you are lovable. You know that there is nothing that you need to do to deserve love. You are enough, just as you are. The Creator is love, and in the depth of your heart, you are love. In matters of the heart and romance, all is healing or is already healed. In terms of self-love, your confidence and self-esteem are growing as you take the time to cherish and care for yourself. And that's very true. I personally have been taking a lot of time for self-care, and as I said earlier, a lot of mourning, a lot of grief, a lot of anger. The shadow self is alive and well. And maybe we have to purge all of that in order to actually be able to get into the vibration of love again. Our other card, action. And interestingly, this card really does, to me, speak of Mars and its transition into Aries, because you have the fire of the sunset and you have the water of Pisces here. So this is Aries energy and this is Pisces energy, and Mars, these are all colors of Mars, right? So let's see what action has to tell us. Storm clouds are gathering. Have you ever been outdoors just before a storm? You feel energized and alive and maybe even a little high, as if your body is being fed energy and vitality from the storm. The energy in the atmosphere is building, literally, and your body can feel it. Storms are necessary to replenish and refresh the land. They can feel disruptive and dangerous and can cause damage I'm going to ignore the sound of the vacuum cleaner. I hope that you can do the same for me. I literally feel Mars is going to explode in my head right now. Without storms, the planet wouldn't be renewed and replenished. When you understand the deeper energy of storms and can embrace that energy within your body and your life, then you are always poised to take action when it is called for. And there may be times when you want to take action and you can't or you shouldn't, because it will get in the way of your own self-preservation. But sometimes that's all that can happen. You have to break free. You have to challenge the status quo in order to experience the change that you want to experience. And that's uncomfortable. The sacred landscape wants you to know a shift is coming. The time is now. Don't hesitate. Face your fear. Do it anyway. When big change is on the horizon, it's time to take action. Of course, there are times to deliberate and carefully consider your next step, but not now. Now is the time to take immediate action. Look forward with a calm, steely gaze. I've done nothing about that today. And then forge ahead with clarity, determination, power, and grace. And grace is the key element there, because I don't feel like I have a lot of grace within me in my current state of mind. And so I shall be working to find that. Even if you are not 100% certain of your decision right now, it's better to make any choice than none at all. Just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Okay. I didn't do a Celtic cross this week. In fact, I don't think I'll be doing them anytime soon, because I would rather save those for personal readings. So instead, I let the cards do the talking by letting them come out in a random flow, and it took me a little while to understand that that's what was happening, but this is the way we used to do it. Past, present, and future all flow into each other. 3 rows. We'll look at the horizontal and the vertical messages, but looking in the linear flow of left to right in 3 rows. The first row representing our past, we start with the 5 of Wands energy. That's exactly what I'm embodying on camera for you right now. This deep knowingness of our truth and our value, and being challenged by the outside world to know our truth, to hold on to our truth, to embody our truth, and to forge ahead, knowing that the universe wouldn't provide us with access to truths, as painful as they may be, if they weren't for our greater good and for our advancement. But of course, what happens with that is that we get stuck in this energy, which is where we're coming out of. All of this is what we're coming out of. And it's still current for us, though, unfortunately. But we will be moving through these and out of them. So, fuck the 8 of Swords. When the fuck are we going to wake up and stop feeling like this? These swords are the past, and they don't count for us. It doesn't matter how attached we are to our history. Perhaps our entire identity, because we don't know who we are, is framed in this. Is this who you are? Is this how you define yourself? As the broken person, as a result of all of these swords? As a person too afraid to dip their toe into the waters of the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind? And what this is bringing up for us is problems within our foundation. The 4 of Wands is a card of celebration and stability, and sometimes we don't realize that there's an imbalance, because sometimes that imbalance comes from within us and not in our environment. And sometimes when we've been working on ourselves for so long, we can't possibly fathom that there would be more swords to pull out of this fucking earth. And that's another thing to think about the 8 of Swords. I mean, we are the earth. This is us grounding ourselves in the earth. And what have we done? We've fucking stabbed the earth with our swords. Our own nourishment, our own source. We inflict our pain upon it. How can you build foundations when you feel like that, And you may not be in the state that I've been in, that I'm conveying to you right now, but deep down inside, I'm sure that there are aspects of this. And, what do we find? The frustration between the 8 of Swords and this destabilization of our 4 of Wands card is sandwiched on the other side by the 3 of Wands, which is this sense of impatience, the waiting. And God knows that it's certainly extremely influential in my life at present, and I imagine for all of us, in these very trying, chaotic, bizarre times where reality just doesn't seem to be an anchor in any way any longer. So anyway, that makes sense in terms of our foundation and where we're coming out of and what we've experienced. So let's see what we're coming into in our present. We have this energy, which is exactly what I was saying before. In order to overcome our 3D afflictions, we have to embody the Knight of Wands energy. The Knight of Wands is a card of action, but it's also a card of inspired action, of charm, of wit, of adventure, and fearlessness. And if we want to advance our cause right now, if we want to continue our growth, we have to embody this lightness of being. We have to go out and enjoy ourselves. I mean, it's counterintuitive because it's very difficult when you're anchored in frustration and chaos and fear. But at the same time, excuse me, my beard is itching because I haven't shaved. Because basically I just couldn't be bothered doing much in the last couple of days. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. Counterintuitive to, well, it's not so much counterintuitive as it feels almost impossible to recognize that it's a lover's moment. It's the choice. It's like, well, would you choose to anchor yourself in your frustration and your attachment to misery and poverty consciousness and frustration of the flow? Or will you choose to let that go? I mean, think of every time you've ever felt angry or sad or whatever it is. I mean, yes, sometimes we have to experience those feelings in order to move forward, but we experience them and then we move beyond them. And it's a choice how long we stay in that darker place, because it doesn't take that long to acknowledge the source of our troubles, and then what we're able to change. We should immediately just tell ourselves, well, I don't want to be attached to my misery. Let's get the fuck over this and move on. But it can be difficult to do that because a lot of us have Stockholm syndrome when it comes to our trauma. And it couldn't be clearer because the next card, which is in our present, our upcoming energies in this present moment, in the days ahead as you watch this, we're moving away from this turmoil. We are releasing it. And that doesn't mean that we're all joy and lightness immediately, because I mean, as you can see, these people, like, they don't really look that thrilled, and there they have their freaking swords planted in ahead of them too, but at least they see the horizon. And think about it. Look at these people. What are they moving on for in your imagination? What comes to your mind? How do you relate to this? Who are you in this image? What do you feel looking at this image? And we get another card of movement, the Chariot. This one, of course, being again about the interaction between the subconscious and conscious mind, or the other way around, rather. And, you know, the Chariot, you know, within itself is the divine embodiment of self-empowerment, but in order to move forward, the driver, that's you essentially, has to be in alignment with the elements. This staff here is channeling electricity, energy, because of that perfect alignment. So it's a victory card, and it's a card of movement, and it's sort of the perfect high arcana, major arcana, high frequency embodiment of this. And it comes followed by the Hermit. So again, we've been seeing the Hermit in all of our readings recently, but I think that what I'm understanding from this is that all the answers we need lie within. We have the star within us. And it's time for us to lead. No matter what. Fearlessly, fiercely, courageously. Even when you can't get more than 12 people to view your video. And I would say that's probably an exaggeration. It wasn't 12 because I know a couple of people that probably watched my video twice. So it's really sad. And I know I should move beyond this, and I have to, but I'm working through it, and I'm working through it with you. And who else would it make sense for me to express that to, considering that you are my viewer? In the future, this is exactly what I'm already embodying, and it goes perfectly well with that action Mars energy in Aries. King of Swords. The King of Swords knows himself, he knows his power, he knows his truth, he knows his intellect. He is a fierce leader of intellect. And he doesn't dip into the shit. See? He's on his own pedestal, and he's in peace with everything around him. But also, you know, he's not just a catalyst. He is the ruler, because he's at one with Earth, with Gaia. He knows he is purely a divine tool. But guess what? He doesn't take shit from anyone. And he doesn't diminish himself for anyone else. And look out, anyone that crosses the King of Swords. So that's our inner power. How it expresses itself externally, we got these two together in our future. We got the Ace of Cups, so this is a big emotional leap forward via an opportunity, divine inspiration, divine intervention with something. You probably need this emotional boost right now, and so you manifest it. And how does it manifest? It manifests through being, again, in this, see the commonality? The dark Sphinx and the light Sphinx. Only through the balance of light and dark, acceptance of light and dark, in equal measure, can we embody light. Nothing exists in reality without casting a shadow. And we have to accept that. And it's easy to accept it when we're in our King of Swords energy, because we're fearless. It doesn't matter what happens to it. Happens to us, and it doesn't matter what other people do to us either, because we will stay the course, because we know it's our purpose. And it's up to us to do it with joy and love and authority. I mean, that's really what the King of Swords represents. Authority. Again, we come back to the things that I've talked about many times in recent months. Authority versus authoritarianism. When we understand the difference between the two, we lift ourselves out of the fog of 3D crap. Because the people that fuck us off in life are authoritarians. There's nothing worse than having somebody who doesn't know, who is not self-examined, who doesn't actually understand what knowledge is, what strength of mind and soul are. That's very frustrating for a person that's on a path of, seeking enlightenment to experience that in others. But there comes a point when the student surpasses the teacher. And very often in that process, we also discover that many of our teachers were nothing more than authoritarians. And that's deflating and inspiring, angering, and brings joy. Because the freedom from that imprisonment to the idea of someone else knowing more or being more powerful than you. Well, I won't go any further. I think it's self-explanatory. Beyond that, there will be challenges as a result of this. But those challenges, again, we are protected. We have this infinite source of strength and light that we can nurture within ourselves and within our environments. And I will take a clarifier on the strength card because I feel that there's more to it. All of this, this gravitational pull towards the polishing of a as we talked about before with diamonds, the diamonds have to be polished with enormous pressure in order to become the beautiful precious stones that we consider them to be. And I'm speaking outside of just their monetary value. So all the duality of love versus Mars action, like how to love and when you thrive, when you're action oriented, you might have, anger might be, the driving force of that action, the storm, but at the end of the day, it's a storm in a teacup because you transcend all of that. Your action has to be divinely purposed to your own advancement. And in pursuing something that is divine, naturally it becomes imbued with love. Even if its root is hurt and pain and anger, The clarifier for the strength card was the Knight of Pentacles. So the Knight of Pentacles is the slowest moving of the knights, but at the same time, it's still a fast moving energy. And the Pentacle is the Ace of Pentacles opportunity. So we're going to be given a new opportunity of some sort, whatever it is in your life. I would love to think in my life that it would be a job, because I'd really like to be working right now, because I'm really sick and tired of having to provide my own sense of purpose all the time. But that's a whole other problem, because maybe that's the actual challenge, is being able to accept that and do something with it for myself. But I'm not quite there yet, so we'll go with the fantasy of a job. But in your life, it can be any type of opportunity, but it's grounded in materialism, in in your material existence of some sort. It's not ideas or emotions. It's a real tangible thing coming in. And our outcome for the week is the Eight of Pentacles. So a craft, and you know, this is inspired craftsmanship. You know, this is the inspired worker, you know, being in the position of, you know, taking this pentacle that's being offered to us in the future and making something out of it with discipline and strength and devotion. And maybe I'll take one clarifier on that. Just because I can. Say that. Let's see. Ah, great. The Devil. So, okay, I know what this means. You know, when you have that divine inspiration that puts you in a place of wanting to work on some form of craft, you know, many of us fall into imbalance when we feel inspired. You know, like very often people, you know, look at artists in general, you know, they end up losing themselves in drugs and escapism, and, you know, or seeking inspiration through other means, or not, you know, outside of the immediate physical realm that's available to us. You know, that's what plant medicine does. It's what, you know, it's when we find ourselves faced with that divine inspiration to work, very often we then become immediately subconsciously immersed in seeking out some other place to put all that energy. A codependent relationship, sexual indulgence, self-destructive, you know, things that seem joyful in the moment because we're feeling good, but then we still do something that's counterproductive for ourselves, because that is the, you know, the test of that knowledge of light and darkness, is being in the position where can you harness that for growth and for your growth and evolution, or do you experience it as an acquisition and then destroy it by throwing all of that energy into things that are unsustainable and not good for you? And the answer, well, I'm going to take two more cards, because the Two of Swords was sitting there staring at me, and so I'd say the answer is that we don't have the answer to that yet, and we won't until we're actually faced with the experience of it. But well, I guess we'll get two more. So when we acknowledge that, we move into the Lover's energy, which is the informed choice, but it's the choice, as I've said many times before. You know, you look at these two energies, I mean, these are different expressions of the same energy. I mean, what separates them is the shackles. And of course, you know, the divine oneness, or the devil. And the devil is inside, as is this. So it's a choice, but it's not a real choice, as I've said many times before, because, you know, only a broken person makes the choice to go towards this when they have the choice to go towards this. Divine love and purpose eliminates choice, because that's just beingness. That's life. And our final outcome card, the Star, which is the card of ultimate spiritual balance with all the elements. So that's all I have for you this week. I've decided to cut these down. Maybe that will sustain people's interest more. So yeah, peace out. Love you.